Thanks for joining us for City Council Comments. I'm Steve Erickson along with Mayor Jerry Cook. Today we're talking about the Tuesday, July 6th and our Tuesday, July 20th City Council meetings. Thanks for coming in today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, been a couple weeks now since our big 4th of July celebration. It was nice that we actually were able to have a gathering this year.
Oh my gosh, it was so wonderful, and all the people in the parade and the people along the route and so many people at the event, and it was just great.
Yeah, and as always, a great fireworks display.
The fireworks were amazing.
Yeah.
Kudos to the fire department and the whole crew that put that on. North Star Lions. I'm going to stop there because there's so many little groups you have to mention. And,
Yep.
Yeah.
Through the Coon Rapids Community Strength Foundation and all that with the fireworks. So it was just a 2-day celebration this year. That was different than normal, a little shorter.
Right. Well, when we started planning it, because we had to start in January, who knew what you were going to be allowed to have?
Yeah.
And so we just sort of had to just step off and say, we're going to assume we can have something.
Yeah.
We have to order the fireworks, or we're not going to be able to have a fireworks display. And then we kind of built the rest of it around that.
Yeah.
And so then it was going to be one day, and then it kind of spilled into a first day, and so all of a sudden now there was 2 days. So it's surprising we didn't end up at 3 days by the time it was done.
Yeah. Well, I imagine it might be next year a little longer and more normal, but it was great again that you could have a community gathering again this year.
Yeah, boy, and the people sure turned out, and
Hot weather.
Our police department is always working hard, and our public works is always working hard for this, trying to get the cars out in there and out of there. And it was the word that was good to describe it was uneventful from the police. We like that.
Yep.
And when I asked how long it took to get cars out, it was like there was no answer. It's always going to be a really long time because there's just so many cars.
Yeah, you just got to wait, have a little extra patience, and you'll eventually get out.
Yep. Well, and the thing is, if you really kind of look around, there's a lot of side streets that you should be able to slip out on.
Yeah.
But so many are determined to sit in those lines. Well, all right, that's fine.
Yep. All right. Well, next year, again, we'll have hopefully a normal, whatever normal is, celebration. But again, good that was back.
Yeah.
Moving into our first council meeting, we want to talk about July 20th. One of the first items there, we had a legislative update. Representative Peggy Scott stopped by, and they're just kind of fresh off kind of some special sessions that they've had this year.
Yep. Yeah.
Multiple because of
multiple
COVID.
Special, yeah.
They have to do that every month, right?
Yeah. So she just kind of stopped in and gave it. She is one to do this almost annually, I believe. And she just kind of gave us some of the highlights. For example, like the $31 million that came for the last piece of funding for Highway 10, the Highway 10 corridor. And then she reminded Congressman Emmer was here. We're still trying to get the third lane through Coon Rapids, the congestion mitigation program, trying to get that extra lane in there. And then she just mentioned that the driver's license testing spots are open again. There's going to be 93 of those open.
Yep.
And they had some funding to add some law enforcement officers to the busiest transit stations and the trains.
Okay.
So, just a little update.
Nice. And the budget situation's looking better at the state level, I know, so we'll see what that means for community funding and all of that. Of course, like you said, the third lane is a big thing. We were hoping to get state funding for. So far, none of that has been secured at the state level. Possibly again next year in a bonding bill, but it sounds like Tom Emmer might come through on the federal level before that.
Yeah. Congressman Emmer has a plan to get us federal funding for it, and I don't recall what mechanism it was that triggered this, but they think that the money is there, so. That would be excellent to see that coming through. Yeah,
like a federal earmark as part of the budget process or something like that.
Sure. I'm just going to say yes because I don't recall what he said exactly.
That's what I said. I'm like, okay. I just know it's part of the federal. I think it's the one they're working on currently. I don't know when it'll be decided, but again, hopefully that comes through. And I think 2024 would be the earliest that would be done, right? I think they said about there. I know it's several years off, but I believe they said that was 2024. So. Okay. We still got a few years before it can happen, and again, a lot of work is going to be going on up in Anoka and Ramsey in the next couple years. So it's going to be a difficult couple of years here on Highway 10.
It's going to be very difficult. I mean, they're replacing at least one or two of the bridges on Highway 10, yeah, it's going to be virtually impassable to go west that way. So
Yeah. But once it's done, it'll be great for people that are going up to the cabin and stuff on Fridays that not having to deal with a big backup anymore.
or even all the people that even live that way.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That's true too. All right. Moving along, council adopted a resolution accepting a donation of a canine to the police department, and this is pretty cool.
This is really cool. So one of the preeminent canine trainers is retired Coon Rapids police officer Mark McDonough, I believe it's Mark.
Yep.
And he just has a special place in his heart for Coon Rapids. And one of our canine officers was promoted, which gave us an opening for another canine. And McDonough's, I'm sorry, I believe it's McDonough Training. But anyway, Mark
He has his
McDonough,
own company
He has his
that
own
he does,
company
yeah.
that trains canines, and he is donating the canine and all the training to the Coon Rapids Police Department. So it's just huge.
It's great, and I believe it's Officer Bill Johnson, I think, is
That
what I
sounds
pulled
like
today.
right,
He'll start training in August with the new dog. I was kind of thinking when an officer's promoted, don't you still have the dog? But you also forget, I mean, it's part of their family.
Right.
So that when one's promoted, I suppose they still keep their dog as part of their family.
Yeah, and then what I didn't learn yet was which one was promoted. You
Yeah,
know, which dog we would still have, whether we still have Taz or Ike, I think the other one is. I think we have Taz and Ike right now.
Yeah, we've had a few, so I get the names a little mixed up.
Well,
But
well, Billy retired, and then I think we have Taz and Ike. I think
okay,
that's the way it is.
okay, but yeah, again, once promoted, the one dog will be staying with the family. So this donation gives the ability then to replace that canine team.
Yeah, yeah, and we've had, and that canine has been in service for several years now, so it's not like, you know, it's I don't know how many years he had left, but
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, thanks to Mark for that donation.
Yes.
Council held a public hearing and introduced an ordinance. This was for a land sale for property at 125XX Larch Street.
Yeah, so the city ended up owning this little parcel of land up north of Main Street, east of the golf course. There was really nothing you could do with it. It was like 0.2 acres. And because they ended up with it on tax forfeiture, there wasn't, you could have figured out some little public use for it, but you couldn't sell it to a non-public entity for 30 years.
Okay.
There was a vacant lot next to it owned by Shamrock. Shamrock, you know, the owner of Shamrock, Jim Stanton, passed away a few years ago. They divested most of their holdings. So a developer bought that, and now it's been 30 years. The city can sell that parcel. There's really nothing that can be done with just that little 0.2 acres, but tied into that vacant lot next to it, now they'll be able to split that into two lots. It'll be two nice building lots.
Okay.
So it is a $20,000 sale, but what is it worth? You know,
Yeah,
and they felt that was a fair price, and so.
All right. Well, after 30 years or whatever,
Yeah.
just good to have it done with, right?
Good to have it done with, and yeah, but it'll be a nice spot for a couple homes there.
Alrighty. Moving forward, council considered a resolution, or actually awarded a contract. This is for River Walk Sanitary. I was combining two words. Sewer lining Phase 2, and approved a construction services agreement. And this is an important kind of piece of sewer, correct?
We're talking a 42-inch sewer line
Yeah.
that moves everything. I think Mr. Himmer said everything south of the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
And it's almost a half a mile that will be relined. So yeah, that's a key thing. We used to spend about $1 million a year lining our clay pipes in town, and then every year we would think we were done, and then they would find another neighborhood or something, and then we actually had a break where we didn't do any lining, and this is kind of like one of those projects, except larger, $1.5 million. It's almost a half a mile with a 42-inch pipe. It's a bunch of 8-inch pipe, some laterals, but this lining just adds so much life to those pipes. This started out in the East Coast back in the 70s, and it effectively turns the light. It's effectively a permanent fix.
Yeah.
So it's much, much cheaper than digging it out and replacing it, and much less fewer interruptions.
Yeah, that's cool.
Nobody wants that interrupted.
Yeah, it's cool to see them do the process. We've did some stories on it over the years of how they stick the things down there and blow up the thing, and it makes it like new.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So it's good. It's good.
All right. Council adopted a ordinance, 2247 is the official number, defining medical cannabis dispensary and allowing it as a permitted use in community commercial. And this, like we said, is highly regulated by the state, and there's only a few of these really across the state, correct?
Right. Yeah, and Leaf Line is apparently one of the approved dispensaries.
Yeah.
So, and they see an opportunity for themselves here, and it doesn't matter. It seems fine with us.
Yeah.
You know, it's only medical cannabis,
Yep.
and like as you mentioned, it's highly regulated, and so it seemed fine.
Okay, so Leaf Line will be the location coming in. That sounds like they're looking at the strip mall in front of Lowe's, is what.
Yeah, that
We've
sounds
seen.
right. That sounds right.
So they'll likely we'll be opening up shop in there with the approval of this.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Council adopted an ordinance changing the zoning to general commercial. This is 2 addresses and another address. This is the old, we're talking about I finally got an answer today with you, the old Pedersen property,
Right.
Pedersen Floral, and U-Haul is right next door, and they're basically going to expand onto that site.
Correct. That site has been just it's been a really poor location on Coon Boulevard. Pedersen Floral was a wonderful spot to have in town. They were a wonderful family, great store to have, but it hasn't been open in, I don't believe, 25 years. You know,
sounds about right.
So the building is just really run down and it looks terrible.
Yeah.
And I've several times said, is there any way we can tear the building down for them so that we at least have a vacant lot? That would be much better than what we've got.
Right.
But it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
We've had small apartment projects that have been approved there. The neighbors have pushed back on that, which, understandably. When U-Haul came forward with this proposal, the neighbors showed up to say, yeah, we're good with this. We're good with this. So it really sort of just kind of rolled right through here because it's another business use on Coon Boulevard. It fits, it works, and the neighbors like it. So
which is unique because you wouldn't think, say, hey, I want to live next to a storage unit, but I imagine it has its pluses and minuses as well.
Well, think about it. I mean, we have several, and when you drive by them, it's really a quiet neighbor.
Yeah, exactly.
Every once in a while you might see a truck there, but otherwise it's just this building sitting there.
It's not like an apartment complex where people are constantly coming and
Right.
going. There's probably less traffic. So
Yeah, and there's no extra people wandering around. It's just a building.
okay. So has U-Haul been in? I don't recall. Have they been yet? As far as what they're doing to expand, those plans haven't been approved yet.
No,
correct?
No, no, not yet.
So that'll be the next step.
Right.
All right, so the zoning on that has been changed. We had another ordinance that was adopted. This regulates targeted residential picketing. This is something that's kind of picked up in several communities around the state in the last year or so.
Yeah. It's something that's been around. It's been tested by the Minnesota Supreme Court for more than 30 years. There was a Planned Parenthood officer that lived in a neighborhood that used to get picketed. There was a 3M executive that was part of the plant down there in Oak Park, I think it's Oak Park.
Okay.
Oakdale? Down there.
Oak Park Heights or Oakdale,
Yeah.
one of the, okay.
And who was the target of picketing. So a couple different communities had picked this up over the years. It had been tested, and now more communities have been picking it up since, for example, like the Hugo last year that, where everybody protested that Bob Kroll's house.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't just Bob Kroll. It was the whole neighborhood was drug into that.
Yeah.
And we have a responsibility to protect our residents. When you go home, that's your respite.
Yeah.
And if just because you live next to a public figure doesn't mean that you should lose that quiet time or that peace.
Yep.
So this is an ordinance that prevents targeted residential picketing.
Yeah.
And the language has been tested. It's the same ordinance that many communities have been passing, and frankly, it's the language that was recommended from League of Minnesota Cities, and that's why you end up with the same language.
Okay.
So,
And certainly there's a time and a place for peaceful protests. That's not being banned. You can do
certainly.
those in certain locations, but again, your home is your respite.
Yep.
I wouldn't want someone out in front of my house.
Nope.
I don't think anyone would.
Nope.
So.
And this is not to infringe at all on First Amendment rights.
Yeah.
You know, and in fact, the instructions that our officers will be tasked with is you can't be here. Here's where you can be. You can be at City Hall. You can be in the park. You can, you just can't be here targeting a house.
Yeah.
So yeah, people still have their First Amendment rights, and this doesn't stray into that.
All right. Moving forward, Council adopted an ordinance amending a section of City Code related to off-sale liquor licensing.
This has been the most the gently modified ordinances ever.
Yeah.
You know, back in the 80s, Coon Rapids owned 3 liquor stores and then sold them. And then as the population, and they had these protected areas. And then as the population grew, the liquor licenses expanded and it became a 1-mile radius. You can't have 2 liquor stores within a mile. Well, now we're at 8 licenses in town. Only 7 of them are being used. And so this is a tweak. This is a tweak from a 1-mile radius to a half-mile radius.
Okay.
And really all it's trying to do is allow somebody else to come into the Riverdale. We have a 2 million square foot retail regional shopping area. People come from all around to shop there.
Yep.
And if a large liquor dispensary wants to come in there, this opens that up for them.
Okay. All right. Another item we had here was considering a water emergency. This is something that's actually been on, I think it was on the first agenda of the month. It's going to be on more agendas as long as we keep this in place. Obviously, folks know the drought conditions out there, and we need to be doing more to conserve water.
Right. So yeah, and that's in order to keep it going, you have to reapprove it at every council meeting. Yeah. And this specific water emergency that we're passing is the no watering from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day. Yep. You still have the even and odd rules, but this is the second layer. Nothing 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. More may be considered yet. Yeah. As Mr. Himmer said, maybe we may end up having to do something with car washing, and he keeps saying splash pad, but I think that'll be the last thing. So we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, and they say the 10 to 6 anyways. You really shouldn't be watering on a regular basis because it just all evaporates, or most of it evaporates.
So much of it goes up and evaporates anyway.
Yeah, but now you have folks that don't do it then. Now a lot of people are doing it later at night. I know Mr. Himmer was saying as well. So we're seeing water usage climb later in the evening when you normally might see it fall.
Yeah.
So
we'll just see how it goes. There's no other answer for rain. We need rain.
Yeah, and that's been hard to come by this summer. So, and the basic premise of this is to have enough water for everyday uses and also to fight fires.
Right. Yeah. You do not want to send your fire crews out and have your water towers low on water. Yeah. So it really is a safety thing.
All right. Moving forward, Council approved a construction contract for City Hall miscellaneous concrete repairs. So we've been doing some work around City Hall.
Yeah. And we've got a lot of spalling. We've got a lot of concrete that's not level. We've got some of our sidewalks they're just too wide, and we don't maintain them anyway. So, they're original, so they're going to narrow them down so you've got more water saturation into the ground instead of runoff. It's like I don't have the number in front of me, but
over 100,000.
It was like 144,000. I think it was around $150,000 for all the concrete work, and they'll be moving a fire hydrant. And
again, City Hall's been there now for about 25 years, so.
Yeah. So this was just sort of that little warning. If you go by City Hall for things, you're going to be experiencing some construction outside. So.
All right, that is all we had from our July 20th meeting. Move back to our first meeting now, which was July 6th. We wanted to talk about an awarding of a contract for sidewalk expansion, kind of on the topic of concrete and stuff like that.
Sure. and this has been a long-running project, trying to get the sidewalks connected on the north side of Coon Rapids Boulevard.
Yep.
We had so many gaps in there, And it's not a matter of just putting sidewalks in. You've got to get, you have to make arrangements to get easements for the property or whatever you need. And so this is another whole segment of closing those gaps. And this is going to go a long way to completing that. I don't recall what will still be open, but it's going to be like by Leonard's. It's several segments.
East of Hanson.
East of Hanson. Yeah. Yeah, and sidewalks are really important along Coon Rapids Boulevard because you don't want to be walking on that shoulder.
Right.
And a lot of people are out. They like getting out there and walking. So.
Yeah. Well, good. They have a plan and they're moving forward with those connections.
Right.
All right. We had another item that was an appeal of a planning commission decision. It was a site plan denial by the Planning Commission regarding the Riverdale Station Apartments Phases 3 and 4. This was something that was talked a lot about at the planning. They were split on the issue, came to council. Council spent a lot of time talking about this as well. Council was also split on the issue.
Yeah, right. So the Planning Commission denied it 4-3, and then the council overrode the denial by 4-3. And there was a lot of conversation at both the Planning Commission and at the council. And it was one of those things where, frankly, for me, I missed it. I missed it. When they brought this to us in February, I was so stunned that they were bringing a 5-story building forward that I didn't even think to dig and go, what did they originally propose for us? Because when we first developed that, we had choices between several developers and selected this one because they liked their plan.
Right.
So when it went back to Planning Commission, they sort of stepped a little out of their role as minding policy and said, this isn't at all what you were showing us 5 years ago. So they kind of pumped the brakes, a little outside of the purview of what they should have been doing, but I appreciated it because it called my attention to it. And at any rate, it passed City Council 4-3. 3 of us were opposed to it moving forward because we just thought it was too much density. It was too many units. It wasn't enough parking in our mind, but the rest of the council thought it was. And the first part of the program, the first development there is very successful. I know it will be successful. I know that it fills a need. So Sherman Associates builds a great, they've proven to be a great property owner, developer in town. So it'll be a nice project.
Yeah, and there is still a senior component, but it's a much smaller senior component than the original plan, correct?
Right. The original plan called for 2 senior market, buildings, and now it's going to be a very large market rent apartment, and then a smaller, I believe it's a affordable senior building.
Which obviously there's a need for that.
Yep, absolutely.
As well. But it did come back, like you said, the plan that you guys discussed earlier this year, it was brought back as a 5-story building. So that discussion was obviously had. It came back as a 4-story building.
Yep. It came back smaller, but it still came back. I mean, they expanded it to enough where they actually had to do some underground water retention because there wasn't enough space there. It just, for some of us, it felt too intense. But again, the council recognized recognized how successful Sherman's been, and it passed 4-3, and I'm sure it'll be just fine.
Yeah, so I imagine they'll be on construction maybe next year or this year if they can, I suppose.
As soon as they can.
Yeah, all right. Council approved a contract with WatchGuard Video Incorporated. This is for the body cam program that is going to be instituted in the Coon Rapids Police Department.
Right. Yeah. And so the contract with the vendor was decided last month, and they decided to go with the same company that does our dash cams because everything will integrate together. And now we just approved the funding for that and the funding for the digital tech they have to hire to monitor it or to
all the data,
filter the data, whatever they need to do. Yeah, because body camera footage can't be just released the way it is. You've got to blur out any minors and any people that aren't actually part of it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on it.
Okay, so that'll be hired, and it sounds like they're going to launch it sometimes this fall, I believe.
I think so. Yep.
All right, that is all we have for the items on that council meeting. A couple things before we go we wanted to talk about. We have our last Summer in the City neighborhood meeting coming up here next week.
Prospect Park. It's on
Yes.
116th Lane. I don't remember what the address, 33,000 something, 116th Lane, Prospect Park. Make sure you come out.
Yeah.
These meetings in the park it's a very casual way to interact with the staff, interact with your city council, the mayor. The police chief is normally there, the fire chief. It's free ice cream.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
And the last time they really picked it up too.
Yeah.
They had Haagen-Dazs.
Wow. Pretty good. We got some
I'm
good
not sure we're going to
choices.
get that again. But,
Okay, all right. But
yeah,
come out.
it's a great night. If you've got any questions about what's going on around the city, stop out.
Okay, so again, that's Tuesday, July 27th, Prospect Park. We start at 6:30
Yep.
and run till about 8 o'clock.
Yep. And then we've still got the farmers market.
Yep, that
going
just
on.
opened last week. So this week was our second week, and much better turnout than the first week, which
Much better
was
weather.
almost rained out. I felt bad for the vendor that was out there that day.
The one day we got rain, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it was literally those couple hours of the market.
Yeah. Yeah, so 3 to 6 Wednesday afternoons over at the Coon Rapids Ice Center parking lot.
Yep. And summer concerts, we still have a couple left here coming up.
Yep, and then we have the Night to Unite coming up on Tuesday night, August 3rd.
Yep.
Still time to sign up through the police department,
Yep.
which moves our first council meeting in August to Wednesday, August 4th.
Yep.
And then the other thing I wanted to say is the Coon Rapids High School Center for Biomedical Sciences and Engineering welcomed the new principal,
Oh, yes.
John Pena, and he was most recently an assistant principal at the Anoka Middle School for the Arts for the last 10 years or so. So we want to welcome him to town.
Yep.
They had a little meet and greet for him last night, but I had another opposing appointment and I didn't make it over there.
Yeah, and we didn't as either, but we do hope to talk to him here before the school year gets underway. And I know people are excited to have him. Annette Ziegler, the former principal, is in a new role now at district headquarters.
Yep.
I believe director of elementary something. So she has a new role starting
Yep.
July 1st, so we have a new principal now.
Yep, at our beautifully remodeled high school.
Yeah, and most of the work is, I believe, completed or will be soon.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's like walking through a big college student area when you walk in that front of it. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, and then they've been working on the field too with that going to the synthetic turf. So
Put turf out there.
if you've seen a lot of the piles of dirt and stuff over the summer, they've been working to redo that.
I had no idea they had to move that much dirt to put down turf.
Okay, you think like, okay, this is like a week project, and then
Oh man,
that's why we're not in that type of business.
apparently not.
So that'll be nice for the kids to play on. It's a lot more versatile for the different sports and the different groups that need to use the field.
Absolutely.
And they're doing that at all 5 of the high schools.
Right. Well, it used to be you would play football in the fall, and then the field would get time to recover.
Right.
But now it's football, it's lacrosse, it's all the sports.
Yeah.
The turf never gets a chance to recover.
Right.
And so the new synthetic turf
Yeah.
can take that abuse.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are out of time.
Very good.
All right. Appreciate you coming in today. Appreciate you at home for watching, and we'll see you back here again after our 2 meetings in August.